On the 7th day since the global black mist swept across the earth, I leaned back on the genuine leather lazy sofa in my dormitory, my fingertips gently tracing the chilled imported cola can. On the table sat a full row of thick-cut Wagyu steaks, and the air was filled with the sweet aroma of freshly baked butter bread. Outside the window, tearing screams kept ringing out, and from the corridor downstairs came the intermittent sound of heavy objects being dragged, mixed with the dull thuds of mutated plants piercing human flesh. But I had my double-layer soundproof windows tightly shut, undisturbed by any of it. My name is Shen-Yi. 3 days ago, I was reborn with all the memories of my past life. The moment the black mist descended, I unlocked an infinite supply system. As long as I took in survivors who met the rating criteria, the system would endlessly refresh all kinds of supplies: food, drink, medicine, weapons, building materials, everything you could imagine. The space inside had time frozen, so nothing would spoil no matter how long it was stored. In my past life, I starved in this dormitory building for a full half-month, had the last half-bottle of water snatched away by my former classmates, and ultimately died a miserable death under the spikes of a mutated cactus. In my final moments, I watched helplessly as those usually glamorous men and women devoured rotten, moldy bread. This time around, I will never let myself be trampled on again. The university class WeChat group had long since completely collapsed. At first, I sent a message saying I had uncontaminated pure water and was willing to take in stranded female classmates. Instantly, I was drowned in a torrent of abusively objectifying women, pretending to be a rich second generation pathetic loser. The comments scrolled by in a flood. The admin kicked me out of the group without a second thought. I couldn't be bothered to argue. I switched to a burner account and lurked in the group, silently observing. Everyone was suspicious of each other, scrambling for supplies. The camaraderie of classmates who once helped one another had shattered completely in the face of hunger and thirst. From the windowsill of the girls' dormitory next door came faint, sobbing sounds. It was Sue Wanting, the universally recognized beauty of the department. In my past life, she had stood by coldly as I was bullied and even mocked me publicly, saying I'd never amount to anything in my lifetime. Now, she clung to the plastic steel window frame, her cracked lips opening and closing repeatedly, her voice as weak as a candle flickering in the wind. Shen-Yi, I know you have water in your dorm. Can I buy a bottle for 1,000? My parents are abroad, and once the rescue arrives, I'll transfer you double. I unscrewed a bottle of mineral water and, in front of her, slowly poured out more than half of it. The clear stream trickled down the wall. Sue Wanting's pupils suddenly contracted, her hands gripping the window frame tightly, and her eyes instantly turned red. Are you insane? Right now, a drop of water is 100 times more precious than gold. You'd rather pour it away than share even a little with me. Money is worth less than toilet paper in the apocalypse. If you want water, come alone to room 606 on the 6th floor. No knives or sharp weapons allowed. The mutated creatures are everywhere in the black fog downstairs. If you bring a weapon through the door, I'll lock you in the hallway. I set down the empty bottle, turned around, and lay back on the sofa, ignoring her screams. Throughout the entire night, Sue Wanting did not move. In the group chat, people kept posting videos. Xiao Tao from the physical education department had awakened with lightning abilities, casually piercing through an iron bench. Countless men and women flocked to flatter and seek his favor, scrambling to exchange supplies for protection. I watched the videos with a faint smile. In my past life, Xiao Tao used his abilities to extort supplies from female students, only to be torn apart by a giant mutated bird in the end. So-called abilities, without sufficient supplies to back them up, never last long. The next day, just as dawn was breaking, light footsteps echoed in the hallway. Through the peephole, I saw Sue Wanting carrying a thin backpack, a folded fruit knife hidden in her hand. Hesitating as she climbed the stairs, I yanked the door open, grabbed her arms, and pinned her against the wall. Swiftly, I found the knife behind her back and tossed it aside. She struggled and cried, accusing me of breaking the law. repeatedly threatening to report me to the police after the apocalypse ended. There are no police out there now. No rules. Yesterday, when you looked down on me and mocked me, you never thought today would come. If you want to stay and have plenty to eat and drink, drop your princess attitude. If not, get out of here right now. In the black fog, a mutated stray dog dragged away 3 boys last night. Sue Wanting looked out the window at the rolling, thick black fog. From downstairs came faint growls of monsters. All her pride collapsed in an instant. She crouched by the door, sobbing quietly, repeatedly promising to obey and never hide anything or resist. I stepped aside to let her in, casually conjuring a whole case of bottled water out of thin air. A system notification chimed simultaneously. Sue Wanting scored 95 points. Unlocking cooked food supplies. In the space, an endless supply of roast chicken, braised dishes, and pre-made meals appeared. She stared at the case of bottled water that had appeared out of thin air, too shocked to speak. I tore off a whole warm roast chicken and handed it to her. She wolfed down the drumstick, even gnawing the bones clean, with none of her former disdain for cheap snacks. Just as I settled Sue Wanting, WeChat friend requests flooded in. The athlete Ma Tianming sent a message, claiming to know a method to awaken superpowers and offering to trade clues about a colored ability fruit for 3 bottles of purified water. I calculated in my past life, colored fruits were the only way for humans to gain abilities. And Zhao Tao's lightning power came from one. I agreed to the deal, using Ma Tianming's dormitory's long endurance drone to deliver the water remotely. Avoiding the danger of going downstairs, Sue Wanting knew how to operate aerial filming equipment. She walked to the balcony to adjust the remote control, and the drone, carrying 3 bottles of mineral water, slowly flew into the black fog. The screen clearly showed Ma Tianming's figure. Just as he took the water, thick vines suddenly shot out from the shadows, tightly wrapping around his limbs. Within seconds, they dragged him deep into the black fog. The image cut off abruptly as a giant mutated bird in the sky smashed the drone, and the screen went completely black. Sue Wanting, terrified, curled up beside me, trembling uncontrollably. I gently patted her back, my gaze fixed on the endless black fog outside the window. This old dormitory building had weak defenses. Its doors and windows couldn't withstand high-level mutated creatures. Staying here long-term posed extreme risks. I had to build a secure fortress as soon as possible. But for now, I lacked construction materials and large-scale protective equipment, and I needed to find more high-scoring survivors to unlock supplies. Suddenly, urgent knocking came from the hallway. A male student in overalls from the next dorm shouted through the door, offering to trade compressed biscuits for half a bottle of water. I cautiously opened the door to negotiate, catching a glimpse of a glossy, colorful supernatural fruit embedded in the center of a potted plant on his dorm windowsill. Without batting an eye, I swapped the entire plant for half a pack of spicy strips. Back in room 606, I plucked the fruit and swallowed it. All the grime on my body fell away, and my physical evolution ability awakened directly. My strength, endurance, and speed skyrocketed. A single punch could dent an ordinary wall. Sue Wanting gazed at my transformed physique with admiration, nestling close to help me organize the supply list. I opened WeChat and sent out a batch of messages to take in survivors, casting a wide net to find high-scoring women and accumulate resources for building a fortress. The black mist still shrouded the entire city, but with unlimited supplies and supernatural abilities in hand, I had already risen above the struggle for survival that ordinary people faced. Deciding that the dormitory building was no place to linger, I pried open room 610. 3 doors down, it was far from the rooms where strange noises frequently came, and the escape route at the stairwell was open, allowing for a quick evacuation in an emergency. Sue Wanting followed me with a bundle of bedding. Just as we reached the middle of the hallway, 3 figures emerged from the stairwell corner. Sue Wanting's best friend Jiang Nanyan and 2 female classmates. As soon as the slightly chubby girl Wang Mimi saw me, she immediately launched into a shrill, harsh tirade. Wanting, have you lost your mind? Hiding here with a useless guy like him? He's just trying to take advantage of you with his supplies. He looks like a pathetic, broke loser." Before the words had even faded, the power of my evolved physique erupted fully. I raised my hand and slapped Wang Mimi, sending her flying 2 meters away. She slammed heavily into the wall, collapsed unconscious, and blood slowly trickled down her forehead. Jiang Nanyan's face changed color instantly. She instinctively shielded teacher Bai Sini beside her. Her eyes filled with disbelief. Bai Sini immediately spoke up to accuse me, condemning me for hitting a woman and losing all basic moral standards. In the apocalypse, human life is worthless. She opened her mouth to spew venomous words, while in the black mist, countless men fight tooth and nail for a single bite of food. I've already shown mercy by not throwing her out the window. If you want to stay and eat and drink without worry, behave yourselves. If not, turn around and leave now. The mutated vines downstairs could attack passers-by at any moment. I leaned against the doorframe, my hand resting on the newly unlocked Type 54 pistol at my waist. The cold metallic glint reflected in the eyes of the 2 women, and they instinctively stepped back. Jiang Nanyan's appearance and figure scored as high as 96 points. The system's detection tone echoed in my mind. Taking her in would unlock heavy supplies. I observed her demeanor without changing my expression. She was so hungry that her stomach kept growling. Her gaze locked onto the aroma of roast chicken wafting from the room. Her inner pride gradually crushed by the will to survive. Bai Sini held firm to her principles, claiming she would rather starve than depend on others, and helped the unconscious Wang Mimi prepare to leave the corridor. Jiang Nanyan hesitated for a few seconds, then shook off Bai Sini's arm and walked up to me. In a low voice, she promised absolute obedience, vowed never to stir up conflict, and only begged for a share of food and clean drinking water. I stepped aside to let her pass, allowing her into room 610, after she stayed overnight. The system successfully unlocked firearms supplies. The system space was instantly filled with an infinite supply of Type 54 pistols and matching ammunition, raising my defensive confidence to a whole new level. Su Wanting saw that Jiang Nanyan was being treated favorably and felt a pang of jealousy. But she dared not show it. She took the initiative to take on all the chores, such as washing clothes and organizing supplies, trying every way to please me, afraid of being kicked out of the shelter. Jiang Nanyan, meticulous and familiar with the layout of various high-end residential areas in the city, suggested we temporarily stay at her 1,200 square meter Riverview penthouse. The high floors had thin black mist, ample sunlight, and an underground garage for parking, making it an ideal temporary transit point. As we packed up supplies and prepared to leave, chaotic footsteps came from downstairs. The companion of Ma Tianming, who had died in the drone trade. The guy in suspenders had been following us, lurking in the dark corners of the stairwell, planning to snatch our supplies and kidnap the 2 women once we left. I activated my newly acquired telepathic ability, and every movement within a 20-meter radius became clear. The malicious intent of his plan to harm and plunder manifested as thick black mist, glaringly conspicuous in my sensory field. I didn't expose him on the spot, pretending to lead Su Wanting and Jiang Nanyan downstairs. I locked the unit door the moment we reached it, trapping the suspenders-wearing guy outside alone. A dozen thugs armed with steel pipes and machetes soon rushed out of the black mist, surrounding him, screaming for food and shelter. The guy cried and begged for mercy, but no one showed any leniency. His screams came clearly through the tempered glass. Jiang Nanyan gripped my arm tightly, her body trembling uncontrollably, leaving the dormitory building. The street had become a playground for mutated creatures. The branches of towering trees were covered in spikes, piercing anything that touched them. A giant mutated orange cat crouched on an abandoned car roof, waiting to hunt. I raised my gun and fired continuously, hitting the cat's limbs. It fled in agony, only to be pierced and torn apart by the branches of a mutated tree by the roadside the next second, blood soaking the asphalt, witnessing the lethal power of the mutated plants firsthand. Jiang Nanyan completely abandoned any thought of venturing out alone to seek help, sticking close to me every step of the way. The security in Jiangnanyan's neighborhood is excellent, with facial recognition unit doors providing strong protection. The 20-story high-rise has almost no black mist seeping in. Pushing open her front door, a luxurious decoration comes into view, and the floor-to-ceiling windows overlook most of the city. However, the cooked food in the refrigerator has long since rotted and spoiled. A thought stirs in me, and I conjure dozens of A5-grade Wagyu steaks out of thin air, paired with sterile mineral water. Cindy unexpectedly turns back alone. Standing at the door looking around nervously, driven by hunger, she sets aside her usual aloofness and proactively offers to stay and rely on me. That night, after taking her in, the system unlocks high-end ingredients and a full set of kitchen equipment. 3 girls sharing a room inevitably leads to friction. Su Wanting, who prides herself on being the first to follow me, constantly targets Cindy. Jiang Nanyan mediates and quietly suggests a plan to me. Divide the living areas and allocate fixed shares of supplies to avoid internal conflict and waste. I adopt her proposal and also go out to search for supplies. Using my teleportation ability, I dart through the streets, clearing out medium-sized supermarkets along the way, collecting all uncontaminated snacks, toiletries, and power banks. My stockpile of supplies multiplies. On the way back, I encounter 2 desperados lying in ambush on the second floor of a supermarket. One wields a baseball bat for a sneak attack, while the other has an ability that turns his hands into steel. They attempt to kill me and steal my goods. I use teleportation to evade all their attacks, combined with precise pistol shots, to cleanly take them out. I rescue the supermarket owner's wife, who was chained up, leave a small amount of supplies for her self-defense, and avoid wiping them out entirely. I hold my moral line while eliminating potential threats. Back at the 20th floor Riverview apartment, Jiang Nanyan scrolls through the neighborhood's owner group chat. A group of male residents plans to band together and storm the thugs on the lower floors, aiming to seize their hoarded supplies. But these ordinary men, who spend their days in offices, are no match for the ruthless desperados and will likely be wiped out. I can't be bothered to get involved in irrelevant conflicts. My telepathy continuously scans the entire building, and I unexpectedly discover a modified safe room on the 18th floor. Inside, supplies are piled high, and the resident, Murong Shui, has a rating of 98 points. The system prompts that taking her in will unlock a full set of fortress building materials, exactly the core supplies I urgently need to build a permanent stronghold. The night slowly enveloped the city, and signs of a power and network outage emerged. The lights in the room flickered, the phone signal came and went, and Jiang Nanyan predicted that within half a day, the entire city would be completely cut off from the outside world. I accelerated my planning, arranging for the 3 girls to familiarize themselves with the house's defensive positions while planning to drive back to the countryside the next day to pick up my grandmother and younger sister Shinsu, who were staying in the cellar. My family is my only weakness in the apocalypse, and they must be settled in advance. Jiang Nanyan knew the location of the modified off-road vehicle. 3 luxury cars were parked in the underground garage of the residential complex, 2 high-clearance Mercedes-Benz G-Class SUVs and 1 red modified sports car. Considering the obstacles posed by mutated plants and abandoned vehicles on the road, I chose the black G-Class with the best off-road capability. There was ample fuel stored in the garage, enough to fill the tank for a round trip of over 70 kilometers to Shen Family Village. Before departure, I assigned tasks for those staying behind. Cindy, skilled in medical knowledge, was responsible for guarding the house and organizing medical supplies. Su Wanting was stationed at the high-rise floor-to-ceiling windows, keeping watch for attacks from high-altitude mutated birds. Jiang Nanyan accompanied me on the trip back to the countryside. She was proficient in route planning and could avoid the most dangerous sections shrouded in thick black fog. With her telepathy continuously active, she could perceive all dangers and human movements within a 1-kilometer radius, allowing us to evade ambushes from mutated cats and dogs or lurking criminals along the way. As the vehicle left the main urban road, abandoned cars were piled up on both sides, and mutated trees grew wildly. their branches stretching across the entire road. I maneuvered the car, dodging left and right, while Jiang Nanyan sat in the passenger seat, keeping her eyes fixed on the black fog outside and occasionally warning me of obstacles ahead. Along the way, we encountered groups of survivors fighting each other over a box of compressed biscuits. I didn't stop but accelerated past them. In the apocalypse, human hearts are treacherous, and rashly intervening would only bring unnecessary trouble. After driving for 3 hours, we arrived at the entrance of Shenjie village. The once lively village was now eerily silent, with every household's door wide open, broken farming tools scattered in the yards, and a mutated yellow dog from the neighbor's house perched on the courtyard wall, its fangs bared, the stench of blood permeating the entire alley. I told Jiang Nan to stay in the car with the doors locked and windows shut, then instantly teleported to the entrance of the cellar behind my own house, pushing open the thick wooden planks. The faint glow of firelight from the cellar came into view. Grandma was roasting corn by the stove, and my younger sister Shensu was curled up nearby, seeing me appear out of nowhere. Both of them froze in place. Grandma's aged hands tightly gripped my wrist as she kept murmuring about her worry for my safety. Shensu threw herself into my arms, sobbing loudly. My phone had long since run out of battery, and the cellar only had a small amount of sweet potatoes, barely enough to sustain the two of them. With a thought, I conjured a roast chicken, self-heating hot pot, and a whole case of bottled water. Placing ample supplies before them, the grandmother and granddaughter were stunned. I briefly explained the truth about the unlimited supplies and the ability fruits, sternly warning them never to reveal this to anyone. After a short rest, Shensu secretly pulled me to a corner of the cellar and whispered that she had sneaked out a few days ago, eaten a colorful ability fruit from the overgrown weeds in the yard, and awakened a super speed ability. Her running speed far exceeded that of a sprinter. But the only drawback was that after high-speed running, her physical stamina was severely depleted, making her prone to extreme thirst and exhaustion. I noted this weakness and planned to later collect physical enhancement fruits to help compensate for it. Meanwhile, I dealt with the mutated yellow dog in the yard, eliminating the safety hazard at our doorstep. After packing up the simple luggage for my grandmother and sister, I drove back to the residential complex. During the return trip, Shensu was entirely resistant to Jiang Nan. Feeling that she had taken away the attention that should belong to her brother, she remained silent the whole way, facing the car window, refusing to speak. Upon arriving at the temporary shelter on the 15th floor of the complex, I assigned separate rooms to my grandmother and sister, laid out a large amount of food and power banks, and repeatedly warned them never to go downstairs alone, as everything beyond the high floors was filled with unknown dangers. After settling my family, a large-scale conflict suddenly broke out downstairs. The resident squad that had gathered earlier was fighting head-on with the ground-floor thugs. The residents were poorly equipped, relying only on sticks and clubs. Within just half an hour, casualties were heavy. 2 injured women posted in the owner's group asking for medical supplies, offering unedited full-body photos in exchange for resources. I immediately noticed Chu Xiaoxiao, who was injured in the leg. The system rated her 96 points. I planned to visit her later to change her bandages and gradually win her over. After settling everyone, I went alone to room 1506 to visit Chu Xiaoxiao. Her left leg had been cut by a long blade, and the wound was continuously bleeding. There was no sterile gauze or disinfectant alcohol in the room, and she was trembling from the pain. I took out a full set of medical supplies from the system space, patiently cleaned and bandaged her wound, left her a roast chicken and bottled water, and promised to return the next day to change the dressing. A look of dependence appeared in Chu Xiaoxiao's eyes. She completely let down her guard and no longer resisted my approach. Leaving the residential floor, my telepathy detected the movements of Murong Shui on the 18th floor. She sensed someone using mental energy to probe her apartment, picked up her crossbow, and began searching around. Her modified safe house was heavily fortified, equipped with an independent generator and stocked with half a year's worth of survival supplies, an excellent reference model for building a permanent fortress. I decided not to barge in rashly for now, choosing first to clear the threats outside the residential complex before approaching this high-scoring expert. Back in the 20th floor Riverview apartment, the three girls, my grandmother, and my sister were gathered around the dining table. The table was laden with steak, braised dishes, and fresh fruits and vegetables, a stark contrast to the survivors outside who were gnawing on tree bark and fighting over half a loaf of bread. Jiang Nanyan proposed building an exclusive large-scale fortress, integrating all available resources in the complex, dividing it into 3 zones: living, storage, and defense. She suggested layering the placement of ordinary survivors and core members, using family members as leverage to prevent rebellion among the lower-tier personnel. The entire city lost power completely late at night. Cell phone signals vanished entirely, cutting off all contact with the outside world. No way to reach any external survivors or rescue teams. I took stock of my current supplies, abilities, and personnel. I possessed 4 superpowers: physical evolution, teleportation, telepathy, and shadow binding, along with an infinite supply of food, firearms, and construction materials. By my side were 6 high-scoring female survivors and 2 family members. But I was sorely lacking top-tier scientific talent and professional combat experts. Fortunately, Murong Shui on the 18th floor and the military research expert Lin Jiwei, whom I encountered later, could perfectly fill these 2 gaps. Jiang Nanyan organized a complete fortress construction plan. The ground floor would house ordinary survivors with families. The middle floors would accommodate loyal women and medical staff. And the top floor would serve as the core residential area, reserved only for me, my family, and high-scoring experts, equipped with independent defenses, supply depots, and ability training rooms. The plan was clear and logical, perfectly avoiding the risk of rebellion among ground floor survivors. I immediately approved its execution, and starting the next day, we began gathering residents from the neighborhood floor by floor while simultaneously preparing the massive amount of construction materials needed to build the fortress. On the second morning, I took Jiang Nanyan and Bai Sini, who was carrying a pistol, downstairs to discuss the gathering plan with the ground floor residents. As soon as we reached the first floor lobby, 6 thugs wielding machetes and steel pipes blocked the entrance. Leading them was a tattooed burly man, followed by the suspender-wearing guy I had locked out earlier. Hatred burned fiercely in both their eyes. Seeing me with 2 women, they immediately started shouting and closing in. "Kid, you locked me out yesterday and nearly got me beaten to death by a dozen people. Today, hand over all your supplies and the women by your side. Then break one of your own legs, and I'll let you live." The tattooed man swung his machete, striking the ground with a harsh metallic clang. The other thugs formed an encirclement, slowly tightening in, while 2 more accomplices hid in the bushes nearby, ready to ambush and distract Bai Sini and Jiang Nanyan. I was not flustered at all. My telepathy clearly captured the murderous intent in everyone's hearts. I raised my hand and conjured dozens of pistols out of thin air, distributing them to the 2 people beside me. The 3 of us simultaneously aimed our guns, and without waiting for the thugs to attack, we pulled the triggers in succession. The gunfire shattered the silence of the stairwell. The 3 thugs in the front row had no time to dodge. They were hit and fell to the ground on the spot. The rest scattered in panic, fleeing in all directions. The tattooed burly man hid inside the property management office and locked the door, followed closely by the man in suspenders, planning to use the room as cover for a sneak counterattack. I activated instant teleportation, directly passing through the door and entering the office. My shadow binding ability activated simultaneously, and 2 dark shadows tightly entangled the limbs of the 2 men. They were immobilized. Their knives all dropped from their hands, losing all ability to resist. Without wasting any words, I ended both of their lives with 2 shots. This group of thugs had earlier brutally killed multiple residents and looted supplies, their hands stained with the blood of innocents. In the apocalypse, with no public security or judicial institutions, eliminating evil people did not cross the line. Two accomplices hiding in the grass outside the building saw all their companions dead and frantically fled into the depths of the black mist in the compound. A giant mutated black spider perched on the outer wall of the building, its webs covering the green belt. Its 8 pitch-black compound eyes locked onto the fleeing duo, and it instantly shot out silk, firmly binding them and dragging them high into the air. Their screams lasted only a moment before falling completely silent. Jiang Nanyan trembled at the sight of the giant spider. This monster was growing larger by the day, and if it continued to haunt the compound, it would severely hinder the construction of the fortress. They had to find heavy weapons to kill it as soon as possible. After clearing out the thugs on the first floor, the residents of the building cracked open their doors to peek out. 2 men in suits walked up to me, standing on a moral high ground to accuse me of killing indiscriminately. They demanded that I share the supplies equally and open up the high-floor residences for everyone to live in, claiming that taxpayers deserved rescue and shelter. Bai Sini, a former policewoman, saw the 2 men engaging in nothing but empty moral blackmail. She raised her gun and shouted at them to drive them away. The 2 men, realizing the power of the pistol, fled in terror back to their own homes. But deep resentment festered in their hearts. The malice was clearly revealed through my telepathy. I noted down their addresses for strict surveillance later. After dealing with the conflict on the first floor, I searched along the park road for ability fruits. In the center of an unmuted flower bed in the greenbelt, I found the second physical evolution fruit. After consuming it, my strength and stamina increased significantly again. The single-use teleportation distance extended, and the stamina consumption for continuously releasing abilities was halved. Passing by a small convenience store in the neighborhood, I stumbled upon Zhou Wan'er trapped in the storage room. Beside her, policewoman Su Yun was on guard with a standard-issue firearm, while a color-changing, invisible mutant gecko lurked outside the door, ready to strike at any moment. Su Yun, of upright character, had rescued Zhou Wan'er while searching for supplies alone. The 2 were trapped in the convenience store, afraid to go out, as the black fog obscured their vision, making it impossible to detect the gecko's whereabouts. I used telepathy to lock onto the gecko's position, teleported behind the monster, and shot it dead, saving the 2 women. The system detected Su Yun's score as 90 points, marking her as a pure, high-scoring survivor. Taking her in would unlock ability fruit supplies. And Zhou Wan'er also met the standard, enabling the addition of a food production line for supplies. Su Yun was initially wary of me, but after witnessing my multiple abilities and unlimited supplies, she let her guard down. She is proficient in firearm use and criminal investigation, making her an excellent candidate for fortress defense and security. Zhou Wan'er is meticulous and skilled at organizing storage supplies. The 2 followed me back to my 20th floor residence, where Su Wanting and Bai Sini warmly welcomed them. However, with more women in the house, private rivalries and subtle conflicts over favor continued to increase. Jiang Nanyan took the initiative to establish rules for supply distribution and living arrangements, resolving several minor disputes. After resting, I took Su Yun to room 1506 to change Chu Xiaoxiao's bandages. The wound on her leg had mostly healed, but seeing 2 new women, she grew uneasy, fearing she might be overlooked. I promised to keep her stable and, upon unlocking new supplies, allocate exclusive snacks and medicine to her, easing her concerns. Chu Xiaoxiao completely let down her guard and voluntarily pledged to help manage the lower-level female survivors in the future, sharing Jiang Nanyan's management burden. Back on the upper floors, Jiang Yannan produced a detailed resident intake protocol, prioritizing households with elderly or children and no records of wrongdoing, exchanging supplies for labor to mine and transport fortress building materials. Those with a history of violence or looting were directly denied entry to eliminate risks. I approved the plan, and starting the next day, we went door to door, using bottled water and bread as incentives. Most residents willingly cooperated. A few stubborn holdouts were intimidated by Su Yun's firearm and forcibly evicted from the building, left to fend for themselves in the black mist. By evening, we tallied the day's gains. 2 high-scoring survivors, Su Yun and Zhou Wan'er, joined us. The system unlocked batch production of ability fruits, standard issue ammunition, and security gear, causing our supply reserves to skyrocket again. The giant mutated black spider still clung to the outer wall, its hard shell impervious to ordinary pistol bullets. I planned to raid the city's top-tier hospital for a full set of medical equipment, and on the way, search for a military squad to obtain heavy firepower like grenades and submachine guns. Eliminating the spider threat once and for all so we could safely begin constructing our own large fortress. The next morning, Su-Yun accompanied me with 2 standard-issue pistols for protection. I activated telepathy covering a 1-kilometer radius, teleporting continuously to avoid mutated animals and lurking thugs in the black mist. Within 10 minutes, we arrived at the gates of Mountain City University's affiliated hospital. The entire building was eerily silent, with scattered, mutilated bodies of medical staff and patients in the corridors. The air thick with a pungent mix of disinfectant and blood. We moved floor by floor through every department: pharmacy, operating rooms, emergency storage, all cleared out. Sterile gauze, surgical tools, fever-reducing and anti-inflammatory medications, topical ointments, and a full set of 4 equipment were all stowed into the infinite supply space. The hospital's backup generator and small medical refrigerator were also collected, ensuring the fortress's future medical room could operate independently, eliminating worries about untreated injuries or illnesses. After searching the entire building, we encountered no surviving medical staff. Without professional doctors, long-term shelter for survivors posed risks. So I planned to continue searching at the city's central hospital next. Leaving the main hospital building, the sound of fierce fighting came from the open ground outside. 5 thugs were attacking 2 female police officers. The leading woman awakened her flame ability, using fire to hold off a mutated pastoral cat. Hidden among the flowers were 2 colorful ability fruits, the core target of the fierce struggle. I concealed myself in the black mist, quietly observing the situation. After the thugs killed the male officer, the flame ability woman fought alone against everyone. Her stamina was severely depleted, and she was slashed on the shoulder with a dagger. On the verge of defeat, I seized the moment to teleport into the fray, using my shadow binding ability to restrain the remaining thugs and finishing them all with a single shot. I took the 2 ability fruits from the flame woman's pocket, casually left 3 bottles of water and 2 self-heating hot pots as thanks, and teleported away swiftly before the female officer Qin Xiang could speak, avoiding prolonged entanglement that might reveal all my cards. After consuming the 2 fruits, I unlocked the advanced shadow binding ability and a second physical evolution enhancement, significantly boosting my overall strength. Through telepathy, I detected the movements of a military squad a kilometer away. A dozen fully armed soldiers were escorting an elderly professor and a female researcher in a white lab coat, heading toward the Suburban Virus Research Institute. The squad was equipped with submachine guns, grenades, and bulletproof armor, with ample firepower. The accompanying woman, Lin Jiwei, scored 93 points on the system. A top-tier scientific researcher mastering mutant biological gene research technology, exactly the core talent urgently needed for the fortress's long-term development. She was the first of 2 major figures. The other, Murong Shui on the 18th floor, had yet to be recruited. I trailed the military squad from a distance, using the black mist and abandoned buildings to stay hidden, completely undetected by the soldiers, following them all the way to the underground 3rd-floor laboratory of the Virus Research Institute. Inside the thick alloy door, a 5-meter mutated giant dog, Experiment 001, was violently ramming the walls. Ordinary bullets could hardly inflict fatal damage, and grenades only briefly stunned it. The soldier squad suffered heavy casualties, with 4 members killed on the spot, and the remaining ones unable to suppress the experimental subject. Lin Jiwei calmly analyzed the genetic patterns of the mutated creatures and advised the soldiers to put down their weapons to avoid provoking the giant hound. Ignoring her warnings, the squad continued firing, fully enraging the experimental subject. The iron door was shattered by brute force, and the giant hound burst out of the lab, slaughtering everyone in a frenzy. The squad was on the verge of total annihilation. Seizing the moment, I teleported in and used Shadow Bind to lock the giant hound's limbs, rendering it immobile. Lin Jiwei, recognizing my multiple abilities, instantly deduced that I possessed the colorful fruit and unlimited supplies, without any unnecessary pleasantries. She directly laid out the terms of exchange. I am willing to follow you to your safe fortress and provide all research on mutated creature genetics and gene evolution potion formulas. My only condition is 1 contact per month, no excessive entanglement. You must supply sufficient experimental equipment and biological samples, and you may not interfere with any of my research projects. I agreed immediately. Lin Jiwei is a top-tier scientific researcher, with her stationed in the fortress lab. She could cultivate controllable ability fruits and develop weakened mutation virus antidotes. Her long-term value was irreplaceable. She followed me as I teleported out of the research institute. The surviving soldiers behind us were powerless to stop it, watching helplessly as the core scientific personnel were taken away, completely thwarting the military's rescue plan. Back at the high-rise residence, all the girls in the house were extremely curious about Lin Jiwei. She was cold and taciturn, focusing solely on genetic research without engaging in any romantic rivalries. She proactively listed the equipment needed for the lab, noting that a large amount of high-end machinery, generators, and gene test tubes in the research institute's underground facility needed to be relocated. The next day, I led a team back to the institute and cleared out all the scientific supplies. The space was now refreshed with unlimited gene potions and experimental materials, laying the foundation for the fortress's research division. Lin Jiwei provided critical intelligence. A normal person can accommodate at most 3 different types of superpowers, and consuming more fruits will cause genetic collapse. I have 5 types of superpowers coexisting within me, making me a special genetic carrier modified by the black mist. She proposed extracting my blood and hair for in-depth research, promising to develop a customized enhancement serum to further improve my physical body and superpower limits. I agreed to her research request as long as I can keep getting stronger. A few sample extractions are no big deal. Organizing the clues on the 2 current core big shots. Research expert Lin Jiwei has been successfully recruited and permanently stationed in the fortress. The other civilian in Dothworld survival expert, Murong Shui, lives alone in a modified safe house on the 18th floor, hoarding a massive amount of building materials and survival supplies. She is proficient in fortress defense design, possesses a mental detection superpower that can identify all hidden dangers within the black mist, and is indispensable for building a permanent fortress. I plan to visit and recruit her within 3 days, once both big shots are gathered. The fortress construction plan will be fully implemented. Currently, all resources, manpower, research, and security are in place. The only missing elements are large-scale fortress construction materials and overall construction blueprints. Murong Shui happens to have a full stock of reinforced steel, blast-resistant panels, and black mist sealing materials. She is the only person who can fill this gap. Jiang Nanyan volunteered to accompany me on the visit, using her gentle feminine communication style to lower Murong Shui's guard and hostility, smoothly inviting her to move into my giant fortress. With 1 big shot handling research and the other handling infrastructure, supporting me from both sides, I no longer have to worry about survival or defense. After 2 days of rest, I took Jiang Nanyan to visit Murong Shui on the 18th floor. Using telepathy, I scanned the entire apartment in advance. The whole place was reinforced with thickened alloy protective walls and privacy-proof anti-glare glass, with an independent diesel generator providing continuous power. Shelves inside were stacked with steel, blast-proof cement, puncture-resistant panels, wire mesh, and other full sets of fortress construction materials. In the corner of the shelves were crossbows and poisoned arrows. And in another corner, a pure white spirit fox was kept, capable of assisting in sensing anomalies within the black mist. Murong Shui has an appearance score of 98. The system's highest rating. She is a post-apocalyptic civilian survival expert who was reborn. In her previous life, she built a small shelter on her own, surviving dozens of waves of mutant creatures and human raiding squads. She awakened a psychic ability. The first time I used telepathy to probe the house. She detected my mental energy and prepared weapons in advance, keeping her crossbow aimed at me when she opened the door without any slack. Jiang Nan Yen stepped forward and calmly explained our purpose, informing her that I possess unlimited supplies and multiple high-level abilities. We plan to build an integrated megafortress covering the entire building complex but lack professional infrastructure planning and reinforced building materials. We invited Murong Shui to move into the top-floor core residential area, take full charge of fortress defense and construction design, and provide a steady stream of building materials as compensation. All construction materials would be supplied infinitely, without her needing to use any of her own reserves. At first, Murong Shui was indifferent, bluntly stating that in her previous life, she had seen countless survivors with resources who all perished due to trusting others too easily or internal conflicts. Unwilling to leave her well-established safe house, she set a harsh test. Within 3 days, eliminate the giant mutant black spider on the outer wall of the complex and deliver 10 tons of thick explosion-proof steel and a full set of heavy construction tools. Only then would she consider moving into the fortress to assist with construction. Proving that I have the strength to protect her and supply materials, I agreed to the test conditions without hesitation, returned to the 20th floor, and took out a massive amount of explosion-proof steel, cutting machines, drilling machines, and reinforced cement from the system space, stacking them all in the hallway on the 18th floor. The next morning, I went alone to the outer wall of the complex to kill the mutant black spider. Su Yun provided cover from the perimeter with a gun, using shadow binding to immobilize the spider's body while I continuously fired at its weak points with a submachine gun. After half an hour, the giant monster that had long plagued the complex was completely eliminated, freeing up the entire activity area of the complex without any fear of sneak attacks from high-altitude spider silk. After completing 2 trials, I visited again Murong Shui, seeing the mountains of construction materials and the vanished black spiders, lowered her crossbow and reluctantly agreed to move in. However, she demanded an independent infrastructure workshop and a dedicated storage floor, separate from the research area, to avoid interference from equipment and materials with genetic experiments. I designed the fortress floor plan according to her needs. The top floor's left side was allocated to Lin Jiwei's research zone, the right side to Mu Rongshue's infrastructure workshop, and the center as my core master bedroom. While Mu Rongxue was packing supplies and relocating to the 20th floor, she encountered Lin Jiwei for the first time. The 2 top-tier experts immediately clashed over ideological differences, sparking an instant conflict. Lin Jiwei advocated prioritizing the cultivation of controllable mutant fruits and developing anti-black fog virus antidotes, allocating 70 of manpower and supplies to the laboratory. Mu Rongxue insisted on first completing the fortress reinforcement of the entire neighborhood, building explosion-proof outer walls and underground escape routes to withstand high-level mutant creature waves, dedicating 70 of resources to infrastructure construction. Each held their ground, refusing to back down. Su Wanting, Jiang Nanyan, and others rushed to mediate, but the 2 experts were clear in their logic and firm in their positions, unwilling to compromise. Lin Jiwei argued that without improved genetic antidotes, no matter how strong the defenses, humans would eventually be slowly eroded by the black fog. Mu Rongxue countered that without an impregnable fortress, any research achievements would be destroyed by monsters or bandits, and ordinary survivors at the bottom would riot at any moment without a solid foundation. All research was meaningless. I sat on the sofa, quietly listening to their entire debate without immediately taking sides. Considering the long-term survival needs of the apocalypse, I proposed a compromise allocation plan. Split resources and manpower evenly. Half to Lin Jiwei's laboratory for cultivating fruits and developing antidotes, and the other half to Mu Rongxue for fortress reinforcement construction. They would have a fixed 2-hour daily meeting to update each other on progress. The infrastructure would include a reserved independent research isolation room, and the laboratory would be equipped with simple explosion-proof protective walls. addressing both parties' core demands. The conflict temporarily subsided. Both big shots approved the equal distribution plan. But they were still quietly competing behind the scenes. Lin Jiwei rushed to purify the gene evolution potion, aiming to quickly cultivate high-level psychics to prove her scientific research value. Murong Shui stayed up all night drawing a complete set of fortress expansion blueprints, detailing every layout of the explosion-proof outer walls, underground granaries, psychic cultivation rooms, medical areas, and bottom-tier shelter zones. The blueprints were so precise that they included the dimensions of every piece of steel and the layout of ventilation ducts to block the black mist, far surpassing the professionalism of any architect on the market. While organizing the blueprints, Murong Shui proactively proposed recruiting survivors with carpentry and masonry skills from the neighborhood, offering free food to form a dedicated construction team to speed up the fortress building, sparing our core members from physical labor. Lin Jiwei simultaneously suggested selecting physically fit women from the lower tiers, regularly administering low-grade psychic fruits to cultivate basic security personnel, who would be trained under Su Yun's unified command. Both plans were implemented simultaneously, advancing fortress construction and psychic cultivation on parallel tracks. Within just one day, over 20 residents with construction skills in the neighborhood volunteered for the construction team, receiving ample bread, meat, and clean water daily as they worked diligently to reinforce the building's outer walls. 10 physically exceptional women entered the temporary cultivation room, taking diluted gene potions to awaken basic perception and speed abilities. Expanding the security force, the two big shots each took charge of their respective domains, leveraging their top-tier skills, yet they still occasionally clashed over resource allocation and floor planning, requiring Jiang Nanyan to mediate and ease their tensions. In the evening, I activated my telepathy to survey the entire neighborhood. The construction team was systematically reinforcing the walls. The lab was continuously producing improved potions. The security squad was patrolling the perimeter to eliminate small mutant creatures. And supplies were endlessly refreshing. The high-caliber women, my family, and the two research and construction big shots were all safely settled in the upper floors, while outside survivors were still fighting over a piece of moldy bread. With resources, psychic abilities, and the support of two top-tier talents, the outline of a massive fortress was gradually taking shape. And I no longer had to wander in search of temporary shelter. All construction blueprints and resource allocation plans have been finalized. Murong Shui is overseeing the entire site operation, with dozens of construction workers working in 3 shifts around the clock. Thickened alloy steel plates wrap the entire exterior of the building, while 3 large underground grain silos and an independent escape tunnel are being excavated. Enclosed anti-black mist connecting corridors are built between the buildings, and each floor is equipped with explosion-proof alloy doors and surveillance sensor points. Lin Jiwei simultaneously sets up a standardized laboratory on the 3rd floor, with diesel generators supplying power in zones, ensuring that research and construction do not interfere with each other. Jiang Nanyan is responsible for managing the sheltering of survivors on the lower floors, establishing a comprehensive reward and punishment system. Residents who participate in construction on time and patrol for security receive daily rations of sufficient cooked food and drinking water. Those who slack off, hoard supplies, or engage in private fights have all their food rations deducted and are expelled from the fortress. Families with elderly members and children are prioritized for soft food and warm bedding, using family bonds to restrain lower-floor personnel and minimize the risk of rebellion. Su Yun leads the Special Ability Security Squad on round-the-clock patrols, suppressing small-scale conflicts in real time. After 3 consecutive days of high-intensity construction, the main framework of the fortress has taken shape. Over half of the explosion-proof steel plates on the exterior walls have been laid. The underground grain silos are filled with endlessly replenished rice, flour, cooking oil, canned goods, and instant food. And the medical room is fully stocked with a complete set of surgical equipment and various medications. The top floor is divided into independent areas. My master bedroom, the living quarters for Grandma and Shinsu, the common room for 6 high-scoring female students. Lin Jiwei's research laboratory, and Murong Shue's infrastructure design workshop. The zones are clearly separated, with layered security measures in place. On the 4th day of calm construction, telepathic sensing detects intense malicious intent to rebel among 3 male residents on the lower floors. The 3 have secretly rallied over a dozen able-bodied young male survivors from the lower levels, planning to break into the middle floor supply warehouse late at night. Seize all the food and firearms. Take the women living on the upper floors and the 2 big shots hostage, and force me to reveal the secret of the infinite supplies. The plan is meticulous, even involving the pre-sharpening of iron rods and the collection of broken glass as weapons. I did not immediately execute them by shooting, adhering to the baseline of lawful self-defense. Instead, I first had Su Yun lead the security team to secretly gather all evidence of the 3 conspirators' collusion and scheming. Using telepathy, I recorded their private conversations about looting and hostage-taking plans in full, preserving complete video evidence. Then, late at night, I gathered all 13 rebels in the first-floor lobby, with all ground-floor residents present to observe. I publicly played the evidence of their conspiracy, exposing their entire plot to slaughter the protectors and seize supplies. The 3 ringleaders remained unrepentant, shouting that the apocalypse had no laws and that supplies should be equally shared by all. They incited the other ground-floor residents to join their rebellion. Many residents showed signs of wavering, with greed stirring in their hearts. Murong Shue spoke first, listing the massive daily supplies provided by the fortress to everyone. She contrasted this with the outside world's horrors, people eating each other and fighting over half a loaf of bread, pointing out that everyone's survival depended entirely on the unlimited supplies. If the rebellion yet the fortress, everyone would die at the hands of black mist mutant creatures. Lin Jiwei followed up, adding that the anti-black mist potions and low-level ability fruits produced by the lab were only supplied to fortress residents. If the rebellion broke out, all research facilities would be destroyed, leaving no potions to resist the black mist's erosion. The elderly, women, and children among the ground-floor residents would be the first to die. The 2 leaders, one in infrastructure and one in research, each struck at the residents' survival instincts. Those who had wavered immediately came to their senses, distancing themselves from the 13 rebels. I proposed a punishment plan that did not involve taking lives, distinguishing between primary and secondary penalties. The 3 ringleaders were stripped of their eligibility for patrol and construction duties, receiving only minimal daily rations and being permanently confined to solitary cells on the ground floor. The 10 blind followers had their food rations deducted for 7 days and were forced to engage in high-intensity construction work to reinforce the outer walls around the clock. Only after performing meritorious deeds would their normal supply of provisions be restored. All residents were present as witnesses throughout the process, preventing anyone from later twisting the facts and accusing me of excessive killing. After dealing with the rebel group, Murong Shue immediately optimized the fortress's foundational defenses, installing double-layer alloy locks on the confinement cells, adding multiple password-protected blast doors to the supply warehouse, and stationing 2 ability-enhanced security personnel at each corridor entrance around the clock. Lin Jiwei improved low-level calming potions and distributed them to the lower-level residents to ease negative emotions and greed, reducing the likelihood of rebellious thoughts. Jiang Nanyan adjusted the supply distribution rules, ensuring daily public and uniform allocation to prevent jealousy and conflicts caused by hoarding or hiding supplies. As construction continued, the conflict between the 2 leaders resurfaced. Murong Shue requested a batch of special steel to reinforce the underground escape tunnels, while Lin Jiwei needed the same type of steel to build a gene cultivation isolation chamber. Both applied for the same batch of scarce materials simultaneously, and with insufficient short-term stock, they once again clashed. I adjusted the material refresh priority on site, doubling the special steel output for a single day to meet both sides' needs simultaneously, eliminating the competition for resources. During their free time, Grandma and Shensu often visited the top-floor laboratory and construction workshop. Shensu's superspeed ability, enhanced by Lin Jiwei's improved potions, significantly reduced stamina consumption during high-speed running, allowing her to assist the security team in quickly relaying messages. Grandma took charge of the top-floor small planting area, where the system endlessly refreshed soil-free vegetable seeds, cultivating fresh produce to enrich the dining table. The lower-level construction workers received fresh vegetables daily, enjoying living conditions far superior to any other survivors outside. In the evening, standing by the top-floor floor-to-ceiling windows, I overlooked the nearly completed giant fortress. The exterior blast-proof steel panels blocked out the black mist and mutated plants, while the underground granary, medical room, laboratory, workshop, and shelter area were all fully equipped. Murong Shue's final construction blueprints lay spread across the desk, and Lin Jiwei's ability-enhancing potions filled the experimental table. Both leaders reported their progress to me at fixed times each day, assisting in overall coordination from either side. In the past, others fought over a single piece of bread just to survive. But now I possess a complete and secure fortress, with 2 top-tier leaders willingly staying to assist. Accompanied by several loyal women and family members, I no longer have to endure the despair of freezing and starving to death as I did in my past life. The main reinforcement of the fortress is 80 complete. And Lin Jiwei's genetic agent cultivation has entered a critical phase. A batch of improved 001 mutant biological samples is stored in the laboratory's sealed chamber. A special forces squad of over 20 soldiers, armed with submachine guns, grenades, and bulletproof vests, returns to the residential area and heads straight for the old safe house on the 18th floor. Finding it empty, they immediately surround the blast-proof door on the first floor of the fortress. Captain Zhao, the leader, shouts demands for the surrender of the top researcher Lin Jiwei, insisting she be forcibly taken to the military's temporary base for nationwide mutation research. Su Yun leads the ability security squad to hold the entrance, raising their guns in a standoff with the military team. Both sides have equal firepower, and any exchange of gunfire would damage the fortress's outer walls with bullet holes. Murong Shui rushes to the first floor with the reinforcement blueprints, urging both sides to negotiate calmly to avoid heavy weaponry destroying the blast-proof walls built with massive amounts of construction materials. Lin Jiwei voluntarily comes downstairs, stating that she is willing to stay in the fortress to continue her research and will not leave with the military. Captain Zhao produces a high-level mission order, claiming that Lin Jiwei is the only researcher in the country who masters the core genes of the mutation and must be escorted to the helicopter evacuation point. Missing this airlift means subsequent fighter jets will struggle to break through the blockade of high-altitude mutant giant birds, preventing the entire mountain city's research samples from being sent out and dashing the hopes of tens of millions of people for a cure to the mutation virus. He continuously pressures us, accusing me of unlawfully detaining a key national research talent and crossing the line. Murong Shui refutes each point from our side. The military base has poor defenses, lacking complete blast-proof infrastructure and an unlimited supply of experimental materials. As the black fog continues to spread and mutant creatures evolve, the base will be breached by high-level monsters within half a month, destroying all of Lin Jiwei's research results. In contrast, the fortress has independent power generation, a fully isolated laboratory, and an infinite refresh of experimental materials, allowing for long-term, stable genetic research. The produced agents can be handed over to the military squad in batches for transport, achieving a win-win situation. Lin Jiwei added core conditions. Each month, the military would supply firearms, ammunition, military rations, and brand new medical equipment. She would regularly deliver purified anti-mist and weakened mutation agents to the squad, but would never evacuate alone. If forcibly taken away, she would destroy all research notes and genetic samples, setting the military's decades of mutation research back to zero. Captain Zhao was caught in a dilemma. The squad had limited ammunition, and a direct assault on the fortress walls would result in heavy casualties. After much deliberation, he agreed to the resource exchange cooperation plan and dropped the demand for forced evacuation. with the negotiation reaching a consensus. The military squad left behind 5 crates of grenades, 10 submachine guns, and dozens of crates of military compressed rations as the first batch of exchange supplies. Taking away the initial shipment of anti-mist agents and weakened mutation samples, they agreed to return in 7 days for new agents. Murong Shui seized the opportunity to request discarded military-grade steel plates and damaged bulletproof gear from Captain Zhao to reinforce the fortress's AK points. The military squad handed over all of it free of charge, further expanding the base's construction material reserves. After the military team withdrew, Murong Shui immediately ordered the construction crew to reinforce the first-floor entrance's double-layer alloy doors and set up long-range mental perception early warning points, as long as a large group of personnel carrying thermal weapons appeared within 1 kilometer. The security team would receive an alert instantly. Lin Jiwei ramped up agent production, reserving a sufficient stock of finished products for the military's second visit in 7 days, while also developing a small batch of combat-enhancing agents to distribute to Su Yun and the security team to boost their combat capabilities. The 3 instigators of the earlier rebellion among the lower levels had completed their confinement period. After several days of intense labor and ration restrictions, their attitudes had mellowed. They voluntarily applied to go to the outskirts of the base to clear mutated animals. Seeking to atone for their crimes through merit, I approved the request and arranged for 2 ability-enhanced security personnel to supervise them at all times. If they harbored any malicious intent again, they would be immediately sent back to solitary confinement with permanent restrictions on leaving the base. The other blind followers of the rebellion had their normal resource supplies restored, and many voluntarily worked overtime with the construction crew to make up for their past mistakes. The daily work of the 2 top figures has stabilized, with conflict significantly reduced. Murong Shui reports daily on the remaining construction materials and reinforcement progress of the fortress, estimating that within 3 days, the full area explosion-proof walls and underground escape tunnels will be completely finished. Lin Jiwei simultaneously reports on the output of ability potions and virus-modified samples. Every afternoon, the 2 come together to the top floor to update me on both fronts, one handling infrastructure, the other research, reporting from left and right like 2 core pillars of support, earning the envy of others. Su Wanting, Jiang Nanyan, Bai Sini, Zhou Waner, Su Yun, and Chu Xiaoxiao each fulfill their respective duties. Jiang Nanyan manages the shelter residents on the lower floors and distributes supplies. Bai Sini stays in the medical room to treat injuries. Su Yun leads the ability security squad on patrols. Su Wanting and Zhou Waner handle storage and supplies on the top floor, and Chu Xiaoxiao records the daily inflow and outflow of materials. With clear division of labor, internal operations run smoothly, with no unnecessary infighting or waste. Late at night, I use telepathy to scan the entire city. In the distance, several small temporary shelters erupt in large-scale battles, all over a few moldy pieces of bread and half a bottle of contaminated water. The dead and wounded litter the ground, while mutated creatures in the black mist feast on the corpses. Compared to my massive fortress with unlimited supplies, maximum defenses, and 2 top figures in Chargite feels like 2 completely separate worlds. In my past life, I was also one of those struggling to survive in the fray. In this life, armed with the chance of rebirth and the system, I no longer have to sacrifice my dignity for a single meal. 2 top-tier experts willingly moved in to assist, coordinating all fortress affairs from left and right, ensuring a stable and worry-free life for the rest of my days. After 3 days of construction, the massive fortress led by Murong Shui is fully completed. The entire residential building is encased in dozens of centimeters of reinforced explosion-proof steel, with the outer walls covered in a layer of anti-mutant plant spikes. The 3 underground floors connect to a grain warehouse, medicine storage, weapon arsenal, and independent escape tunnels. Each floor is sealed off to block the black mist, with diesel and dual-circuit generators providing power in separate zones for 24-hour uninterrupted lighting. The top floor laboratory, infrastructure workshop, and core living area are completely isolated. while the lower floor shelter can accommodate 300 survivors with families. Complete with a public cafeteria, simple bathrooms, and a small activity area. Lin Jiwei's laboratory, equipped with a full set of isolation pods and gene cultivation devices, now operates daily to produce stable batches of anti-black fog agents, diluted body evolution agents, and controllable ability fruits. These supplies are distributed to the security team and core personnel to enhance their capabilities, while improved agents are allocated to the lower-level residents, ensuring that prolonged exposure to the black fog does not cause physical erosion or damage. Murong Shui has compiled a comprehensive long-term maintenance plan for the fortress, detailing schedules for steel rust prevention, ventilation duct cleaning, and early warning equipment inspections, with fixed construction workers assigned for regular upkeep, ensuring the permanent and stable operation of the defensive fortifications. News of the fortress's completion spreads across the entire city with the patrol team's excursions. A large number of survivors struggling to survive outside gather in groups at the community gate, queuing to request entry into the fortress for shelter. The line stretches for hundreds of meters, with most people emaciated, carrying only small amounts of rotten wild vegetables and moldy dry rations. Their eyes are filled with longing as they gaze at the fortress's intact exterior anti-riot fortifications, hoping only for a bite of clean food and a safe place to stay. Jiang Nanyan establishes a tiered screening admission rule. The first threshold: applicants must bring their direct elderly and young family members. Solitary young and middle-aged men without ties are directly denied entry to prevent unrest caused by unbound individuals. The second threshold: no history of robbery or assault. Su Yun leads the security team to probe for underlying malice through telepathic sensing, and those with violent or predatory intentions are expelled on the spot. The third threshold: willingness to participate in basic labor such as construction, patrol, or warehouse sorting. Those who do not work will not receive food rations. A large number of single men who did not meet the entry criteria were turned away, and in their discontent, they gathered at the gate, shouting and causing trouble, threatening to rally forces to storm the fortress gates. Murong Shui immediately activated the perimeter warning mechanism, opening all hidden shooting ports on the outer walls. The security team aimed their weapons at the rioting crowd. Lin Jiwei deployed a potent calming agent, which the security personnel sprayed over the crowd from a distance, quickly quelling the agitation. Realizing they were powerless to breach the fortified stronghold, the troublemakers dispersed and retreated into the black mist. More than 200 qualified survivors with their families were admitted in batches to the lower-level shelter zone. The public cafeteria provided an unlimited supply of hot cooked meals and purified water, with children receiving extra candy and sterile milk, and the elderly allocated soft bread and warm bedding. In contrast to survivors outside who fought over rotten food, everyone inside the shelter lived in peace, voluntarily and punctually completing their assigned labor tasks. With minimal conflicts, the two leaders continued their daily routine of reporting to the top floor. Murong Shui reported on fortress maintenance, material consumption, and construction team attendance, while Lin Jiwei reported on the production of calming agents, mutant fruit yields, and research progress on mutant samples. Standing on either side of me, they systematically outlined all core matters, sparing me the need to invest excessive effort in coordination, lower-level management, material distribution, and security patrols were fully handled by Jiang Nanyan and Su Yun, allowing the two leaders to focus solely on the two core areas: infrastructure upgrades and genetic research. During their spare time, Murong Shui proposed expanding the fortress's external independent material transfer station to facilitate future exchanges of weapons and military supplies with military squads without opening the main fortress gate. Lin Jiwei simultaneously applied to build an outdoor isolation cultivation GRE in-house for growing non-mutated plants and harvesting large quantities of colorful mutant fruits. Each proposed their own expansion plans, which did not conflict with each other and were implemented simultaneously, continuously enhancing the fortress's functionality. 6 high-scoring girls, Grandma, and Shen Su formed the core internal team. enjoying an endless supply of freshly replenished steak, deli meats, and fresh fruits and vegetables every day. In their spare time, they could head to the top-floor terrace, basking in the sun within the sealed glass that kept out the black fog. Shen Su's superspeed ability, combined with Lin Jiwei's refined potions, far surpassed ordinary ability users, often assisting in delivering documents and samples between the lab and workshop. Grandma tended the terrace's soilless vegetable garden, providing fresh greens for self-sufficiency, creating a daily atmosphere of stability and peace. The military squad arrived on schedule at the fortress to exchange potions. Seeing the fully constructed giant fortress, the orderly operation of the sheltered population, and the massive stockpile of supplies, they were utterly stunned. They proactively increased their exchange offerings, sending heavy sniper rifles, ample grenades, and brand new military protective suits in exchange for more anti-black fog gene potions. The two sides established a long-term, stable partnership, and the fortress's stockpile of thermal weapons continued to expand. Fully capable of self-defense and counterattack against high-level mutated creatures and large-scale bandit raids. Standing by the top-floor floor-to-ceiling windows late at night, gazing out over the entire city, the black fog still shrouded the land. In the distance, sounds of fighting and monster roars echoed continuously, as countless people lost their lives over a single piece of bread. Yet here I was, in possession of an infinite supply giant fortress, with two top-tier experts in infrastructure and research voluntarily staying to assist. Dividing and managing all core affairs, my family and loyal girls were by my side, safe and sound. No need to fight, no need to beg. Food and supplies were endless. All the suffering of my past life was completely turned around. In the midst of the apocalypse's despair, holding on to rebirth and the system, I sat securely in a peaceful haven. The giant fortress operated stably across the board for half a month, with no major conflicts or external looting attacks. The system for distributing supplies and labor among the sheltered survivors on the lower levels was fully mature. Su Yun's ability user security squad cleared all high-level mutated animals and hidden bandits within a 10-kilometer radius of T. He neighborhood. So going out for supply exchanges or patrols no longer required fear. The two top experts, Murong Shui and Lin Jiwei, permanently stationed themselves in the top-floor exclusive workshops, reporting all core work to me on time every day. Assisting from left and right, the fortress's development faced no further risks. Murong Shui's construction workshop has an infinite supply of continuously refreshed thickened steel, explosion-proof panels, and construction equipment. The outdoor material transfer station and isolated cultivation greenhouses have all been expanded and completed. The fortress's outer walls undergo regular anti-rust reinforcement, and the underground escape tunnels have been equipped with multiple emergency blast doors. In the event of a large-scale mutant beast tide or a siege by bandits, residents on the lower floors can safely evacuate through the tunnels to the outdoor transfer station, which is accompanied by temporary material storage facilities. Short-term shelter supplies are fully stocked there. She has planned a long-term upgrade strategy, aiming to build a citywide underground connected passage, link up nearby small shelters, integrate all compliant survivors for unified resettlement, and expand the fortress's safe zone coverage. Lin Jiwei's standardized laboratory output has steadily improved. Mass-produced body evolution potions, telepathic fruit, and anti-black mist antidote potions are supplied without limit. She has successfully cultivated several artificially grown colored mutant fruit trees, eliminating the need to venture deep into the black mist wilderness to find fruit and reducing the risks of going outside. She has also cracked the genetic weakness of the 001 mutant giant dog and developed a specialized anesthetic for high-level mutant creatures. This anesthetic is carried by the security team, allowing them to avoid wasting large amounts of ammunition in direct confrontations with giant monsters. Instead, they can capture them and bring them back to the laboratory for research, further refining the mutant creature gene database. The two leaders have long set aside their earlier disputes over resource competition and have formed a complementary collaboration model. Murong Shui built outdoor isolated cultivation greenhouses and provided Lin Jiwei with free thickened alloy protective frames for planting mutant fruit trees. Lin Jiwei developed building strengthening potions, which were handed over to the construction team to coat the fortress's outer walls steel, enhancing its explosion-proof and corrosion-resistant capabilities. With mutual assistance in infrastructure and scientific research, work efficiency has doubled. When reporting progress daily, they coordinate seamlessly and no longer engage in confrontational disputes. Jiang Nanyan oversees the more than 300 sheltered survivors on the lower floors and has established a tiered promotion mechanism. Residents who work diligently and have a pure heart can be promoted to the mid-level simple living area, where they receive better supplies and private rooms. The promotion quotas are announced monthly, greatly motivating everyone to work hard. Internal conflicts and slack behavior on the lower floors have completely disappeared. Bai Sini is stationed in the fully equipped medical room, where common injuries and fever-related illnesses can all be treated on-site. Lin Jiwei simultaneously supplies high-end gene repair potions, allowing even severely injured personnel to recover quickly. As a result, no one dies from illness within the fortress. Su Wanting and Zhou Wan are responsible for the inventory records of the top floor and underground storage, ensuring that the daily refresh quantities of unlimited supplies and usage logs are clearly archived, preventing waste and hoarding. Chu Xiaoxiao assists the medical room with bandaging and caring for mild patients. Su Yun leads the ability security squad in 3 daily shifts patrolling the 10-kilometer safety zone, eliminating hidden mutant creatures, and ensuring the safety of routes for gathering mutant fruit trees outside and exchanging supplies with the military. The 6 high-scoring girls each perform their duties, keeping internal operations orderly without any chaos. Grandma has long managed the sealed rooftop hydroponic garden on the top floor, producing a steady stream of fresh fruits and vegetables, combined with the unlimited refresh of meat and snacks from the system. The dining table is rich and varied. Shen Su, with her enhanced superspeed ability, serves as a fast courier within the fortress, shuttling between the lab, construction workshop, and ground floor cafeteria to deliver documents and supplies. Lin Jiwei continues to refine her exclusive enhancement potion, completely filling the gaps in her abilities, allowing her to sprint without exhaustion or weakness, making her the fortress's unique high-speed liaison. Every 7 days, a special military squad arrives punctually at the supply transfer station to exchange gene potions, delivering sniper rifles, grenades, military rations, and new protective suits. In return, we provide sufficient anti-black fog and weakened mutant samples. The long-term cooperative relationship remains stable, and the stockpile of heavy thermal weapons continues to grow, even if hundreds of desperados launch a group assault on the fortress. Relying on the exterior wall shooting windows, grenades, and sniper rifles, we can easily fend them off. If a high-level mutant giant beast approaches the outer wall, anesthetic potions combined with firearms can quickly subdue it. During leisure time, Murong Shui brings new fortress expansion blueprints, meticulously explaining the construction plans for underground passages and the outer defense perimeter. Lin Jiwei presents newly developed gene potions and mutant creature research reports, detailing the potions' effects and long-term survival improvement plans. The two sit on opposite sides of the living room, clearly outlining all core plans without requiring me to worry about trivial matters. Both leaders voluntarily remain in the fortress long-term, relying on unlimited supplies to support their respective ideal endeavors. Mutually beneficial. Neither is willing to leave this only giant fortress where stable work can be carried out. Outside the window, the black fog still shrouded the entire mountain city. The relentless slaughter, hunger, and mutant attacks never ceased. Countless survivors killed each other for half a moldy piece of bread, abandoned their families for a sip of clean drinking water. In contrast, my fully enclosed giant fortress had an infinite supply of resources that never ran out. The infrastructure expert perfected all defensive fortifications, while the research expert continuously developed life-saving potions and mutant fruits. These two top talents voluntarily joined to assist me from left and right. My family and loyal female companions stayed by my side in peace. While over 300 households with family members on the lower floors survived steadily. Reborn with an unlocked infinite resource system. I moved from a cramped university dormitory to a high-rise residence. Step by step building an entire enclosed safe fortress. The once despised, down and out youth, now wielding supernatural abilities, vast resources, and the assistance of 2 top-tier experts, no longer had to struggle for survival in the apocalypse.